So hello and welcome student. Once again we are discussing about the pilot plant and the scale up technique. In previous lecture we had the basic introduction about what is pilot plant, what are objectives of pilot plant, what is scale up, how can we do technology transfer, what are the responsibility of people who are working in pilot plant, what is the significance of pilot plant. And in the end of that lecture we had discussion about this particular graphic. So this graphic is giving you a kind of comparison between the pilot plant and the production facility. The first column is suggesting you how different groups or different departments are formed in pilot plant as well as in production facility. You will find lot of similarity because ultimately the pilot plant is a miniature version of the large scale production. In second column, specific objectives are mentioned that each individual department is supposed to achieve that particular objective, and the last column is describing the key activities which they are supposed to perform when they are working in pilot plant or whether they are working in production facility. Now let us try to understand that if we want to run a successful pilot plant, right? If we want to run a successful pilot plant, what kind of things we are supposed to do, right? Assume that you are the owner of that pilot plant, or you are the head, or you are the managing a person of that particular pilot plant. So you need to take care of many aspects before starting a pilot plant or for running a successful pilot plant. So the most important thing is the personnel requirement, because you yourself is not going to do all kind of activities in pilot plant. So you have to employ different people who have knowledge of pharmaceutical industry, people who have knowledge of pharmacy, and they will come and work in your pilot plant, and then the pilot plant will be successful. So let us try to understand that when we are in the position to hire people in pilot plant, what things we are supposed to keep in mind while doing this job interview or while hiring them. So the qualification required for a person to work in pilot plant and in any other organization depends on many things. So first would be the good theoretical knowledge on blending. If you see any particular pharmaceutical product, right, any dosage form. So dosage form, when we are preparing dosage form, we are mixing drug with various ingredients or excipients. So mixing is a very basic process in pharmaceutical development. So the first qualification or the first quality which we are looking in a person is that person must having a good knowledge of blending and mixing process. Then the pharmaceutical industry experience is also very much necessary. A good theoretical knowledge is necessary, but good theoretical knowledge is not sufficient to achieve certain objective. For that you need a good industrial exposure, a good industry experience. So a person who is willing to work in a pilot plant along with the good theoretical knowledge, he or she must have industrial experience. The ability to develop good relationship with other person, because you have to work in tandem with other departments. A good communication skill, which includes a good writing and speaking skill, is very essential when you are working in pharmaceutical industry. Practical experiences in production area about the formulation, process and equipment is very much desirable. The person should be able to understand the intent of the formulator and perspective of production person. So you remember when you are doing experiments in dispensing pharmacy, so before doing any preparation, before making any preparation, there was a principal part, right? So you were reading that principal part, you were trying to understand what is the logic behind this particular dosage form. Then further you were trying to understand what is the logic behind the individual ingredient and how these ingredients are affecting the final quality of that product. So whenever person is working in pilot plant, he or she must know what is the basic theory behind any particular dosage form and what is the technology involved and how it is going to affect the final quality. The person whom you are hiring must have minimum knowledge of engineering, electronic and computer, because you are operating many sophisticated instruments in pharmaceutical industry. So you must have basic knowledge of engineering, electronic and computer. A person must have knowledge on physical, chemical, biological, and medical attributes of the dosage form, because you are working with many excipients which are having many different properties. Some excipients are highly basic, some are highly acidic, right? Some are very explosive, some are inflammable. So, all this chemistry, basic chemistry knowledge is very much essential when a person is working in pilot plant. The person must be aware of principles of GMP practices. A good quality product is mandatory for any pharmaceutical industry, and that good quality product is only prepared when you are following GMP principles. So a person whom you are hiring for your pilot plant, he or she must have knowledge of GMP principles. The individual responsibilities should be clearly understood by the individuals, which must be recorded. You give clear cut instruction to individual person. If a person is working in manufacturing, he should not interfere in the QA/QC department. If a person is working in QA/QC department, he should not interfere in the formulation department. So like that, individual person should be given clear cut responsibilities and all these things should be documented. Coming to the space requirement, right? So before setting up pilot plant, you are going to buy land, you are going to buy space, right? If you are buying a land, then you will do some basic construction to develop your facility. Now the space requirement and the space management is very important, right? Because land is very expensive. So if you are buying extra land, then the large chunk of your money will be invested in the land. So you will have very minimum amount of money left with you to carry out day-to-day operation. If you buy a very small land and if your facility is not having enough space, then again you will not be able to set up equipments properly, and that will be reflected in the final quality of your product. So the space requirement and the space management is very important when we are trying to run a successful pilot plant. So basically the space in pilot plant is divided into four different areas. The first one is the administration and information area. So all kind of paperwork and all kind of data crunching is happening in administration and information area. So whenever you are allotting space to this particular area, make sure that you are giving sufficient space so that it can accommodate necessary furniture and people who are supposed to work in the administration and information area. The space should be adjacent to the working area so that data transfer could be very fast and very effective. Then the physical testing area. So this area should provide permanent bench top space for routinely used physical testing equipment. So very much similar to the pharmaceutics lab or chemistry lab where you go and work on various equipments and instruments, right? So this is called the testing area. Then the standard equipment and floor space. The sufficient specified space must be there for free installation, operation and easy maintenance of the equipment. If you go and see the tablet punching machine, it has been given enough space for normal operation, maintenance and cleaning, right? You will see that you can actually move all the way around your tablet punching machine. You can see that tablet punching machine from all possible direction, and it's very easy to operate it. You have enough amount of space for the operation. In case of any maintenance, you can easily carry out maintenance because of enough amount of space. And at the time of cleaning also, a person who is doing cleaning can move freely around the tablet punching machine. So we can say the sufficient amount of space has been given for the installation and normal working of the tablet punching machine. Then you have the storage area, right? So the storage area for in process material, finished bulk product, retained sample, experimental production batches, packaging material should be separate. Okay, so when you go and visit any particular pharmaceutical industry, and when you go and visit their warehouse, right, so there are three different sections. One is a quarantine section, one is a rejected material section, and the third one is the material which has passed the QA/QC test. So yellow color label, yellow color boxes, or yellow color of rack indicates that material is under the quarantine. So you are yet to carry out the QA/QC test. Once the material is tested by QA/QC, and if it is passing the QA/QC test, then the color will be changed to the green color label would be applied, and the product would be stored in a green room or a green color rack. The red color indicates that the raw material which you have purchased is not able to pass the QA/QC test, and thus you are not supposed to use it for the production activity. A controlled environment space allotted for storage of stability samples. So sometimes the products which you are preparing or the raw material which you are using are thermosensitive in nature, or light sensitive in nature, or moisture sensitive in nature. So if you are using that kind of product, then make sure that sufficient controlled environment is there. You can control humidity, you can control temperature, and you can control the excess of light. Then the separate provisions for API and excipient further segregated into approved and unapproved areas according to GMP. So as I said, green area and the red area. Green area is for approved product, red area is for rejected product. Next is training. That after employing people, if you find that they are not doing their work properly, or there is a need to provide some extra training to them for making product more successful or adding more quality to the product, then obviously you can go for the extra training. So what kind of training you are supposed to give them as per the GMP? So you should provide them basic engineering training, quality control related training, material handling. You can make them familiar with the material handling techniques. You can make them familiar with how things are working in warehouse and how distribution of pharmaceutical product takes place, and also you can train them for purchasing. Now, depending on the complexity of the job, each person involved in manufacturing, processing, packaging, and holding of the drug product must receive the GMP and other specific training. The employees those need training are divided into following categories. You have new employees who need maximum amount of training. Those employees who are assigned with new job, so they have some basic idea, but since you are giving them new job, they need some training. And those employees whose performance a task falls below the required standard, so you need to give them some different kind of training so that you can improve their performance. Now if you don't know how to design this training module, then you can go and visit the GMP and FDA guidelines, and they have given very elaborated headings for the training. So you have to provide training for the technical environment, dealing with potent and dangerous chemicals, working with system of weight and measures, checking of manufacturing steps, container equipment and drying racks, identification of packaging, proper stock retention or rotation system, raw material inspection and quality validation. The review of formula. So when you are receiving formula from lab, it is very much essential for you to review that formula. You should check the logic behind the dosage form, you should check the use of individual ingredient, and you should also check that what impact this individual ingredient will have on the final quality of the product. If you want to make any modification in formulation during the scale up, that is possible to be done in phase 3 clinical trials, so that sufficient time could be available for the generation of meaningful long term stability data in support of the proposed new drug application. When you are applying for the manufacturing license, when you are applying for the marketing license, you need to submit the stability data, safety and stability data of your product, so that you can achieve by reviewing your formula. Last would be the raw material, right? So in lab we are working with a small quantity of ingredient. At pilot plant and at large scale manufacturing facility we are working with huge quantity of raw material. So because of this difference in quantity, there were many issues which will arise which are completely absent at the lab scale. So you have to be very careful and you have to be very specific with the handling of raw material. So one major responsibility of a pilot plant is the approval and validation of active and excipient raw material used in pharmaceutical products. This is because the raw materials used during the small scale formulation trials may not be representative of the large volume shipment of materials due to the change in raw material properties like particle size, shape, morphology, bulk, density, static charges, rate of solubility, flow property, and color. So an alternative supplier must be arranged as standby basis, which must validate the batches for manufacturing product. So all the properties of raw material may differ when you are working on a large scale compared to the small scale, because on small scale the packaging and distribution is different, on large scale the packaging and distribution is different. So dear students, that was all about today's lecture. Let me know if you have any specific query or question. Stay safe and have a good day.